My name is Phil Silver. I lead the state and local government transportation vertical practice at Amazon Web Services. It's great to be here and to spend a few minutes with you in our session today. In the transportation sector, AWS's goal is to support all of the organizations that are tasked with moving people or things safely, efficiently, economically, and equitably, working with customers and partners who recognize that the power of cloud computing is key to their future. At AWS, this relates to our engagements with departments of transportation, highway and traffic authorities, tollways, airports, seaports, and public transit agencies. Today, we are here to share exciting innovations in the global transportation industry thanks to the cloud. I'll be joined by three speakers: Emeka Moneme, Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Innovation at Transurban; Chris Bennetts, Head of Technology and Innovation at Transport for New South Wales; and David Sullivan, Chief Executive Officer of Elizabeth River Crossings. I'll hand it off to Emeka to introduce Transurban.
Thanks, Phil. My name is Emeka Moneme, and I'm with Transurban North America. Transurban is a global infrastructure company. We invest in, develop, and operate toll road facilities and other transportation assets all over the globe. In North America, we are proud to be the operator of the 495, 395, and 95 express lanes in Northern Virginia. This 57-mile road network connects the greater Washington area to locations south in Virginia. We look forward to building the express lanes in Maryland and continuing to drive improvements in communities throughout our region. With that, I'll hand over to Chris.
Thanks for that. So my name is Chris Bennetts, and I'm the Head of Technology and Innovation at Transport for New South Wales. What's Transport for New South Wales? Well, we're an integrated government agency that brings together public transport and roads under a single authority and allows us to think about the customer from an end-to-end journey experience. And for us, we really do have a driving motto, which is the customer is at the center of everything that we do. And what we like to think about when it comes to technology is how can we use technology to enhance and improve the customer experience that we're delivering on transport. What you'll see there on the slide is some of the things that we're thinking about really driving over the next 3 to 4 years. So whether it be about the adoption of connected autonomous vehicles, the use of zero-emission vehicles to make our network more sustainable, the introduction of mobility as a service, which is a series of digital options combined with transport to make it so seamless for you to travel from A to B that you choose to leave your car at home. How we improve our freight across movements both within New South Wales and outside of New South Wales, and then how we begin to think about all things about the sensor network that we have across our network. Transport for New South Wales, for example, has the SCATS system, which is an adaptive traffic light management service. So we like to think about how can we improve and enhance that again for our customers. So that's the context we look at it when it comes to cloud computing. And with that, over to you, David.
Thank you, Chris. I'm David Sullivan, CEO of Elizabeth River Crossings. We hold a 58-year concession agreement with the Virginia Department of Transportation to operate and maintain the Elizabeth River tunnels connecting the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia. We serve about 35 million trips per year and provide a vital link to the region's transportation network. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our journey to reimagine what a tolling back office can be. You can see from the slide that our journey began with the lift and shift of our legacy tolling system to the AWS cloud. And from there, we started on a journey to build a well-designed and accelerated, brand new serverless architected tolling back office, leveraging all the benefits and power of the cloud. And with that, turn it back to Phil.
Thank you, David. Now let's bring the whole panel together. Emeka, Transurban's mission is to improve communities through transport. What are big problems that the private sector can help government to think big about and solve for by partnering together as a solutions provider?
So one of the areas we've been able to deliver improvements is around how our customers access our services, either through a mobile app that we've developed, or even in terms of improvements of the technology that tracks the usage of our facilities. Another opportunity, I think, is around funding. One of the challenges we know that all public sector agencies struggle with is the ability to make investments in infrastructure during a long horizon. The constraints of capital budgeting on the government side makes it very challenging to keep up with the needs of the users of our facilities. Our partnership, our long-term partnership, allows us to bring forward capital dollars to make improvements in infrastructure, improvements in back office, and improvements in technology to enhance the way that our users of the facilities and the residents of that state interact with those facilities. So that's just kind of tying kind of the strategic policy issues that we know that most governments face, and then our ability to translate those into tactical solutions that we as a partner, as a private partner, can deliver to their benefit.
Thanks. And for Transurban, what has the AWS cloud brought to solving those problems?
Yeah, AWS was a fantastic partner on our mobile application GoToll that we were able to launch several years ago. It's basically a mobile app that allows users to be able to access toll facilities, not only in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but also in other states, to make those payments when they're traveling on toll roads. It's just another added benefit above and beyond the actual asset itself that makes it simpler, easier, and then for us as a user of that facility, far more scalable than trying to build or to leverage what we currently had in place. So we were excited to build that partnership, and we are looking to continue to grow the deployment of that app across a number of states, not only in the Southeast near our current assets, but also in other parts of the U.S. And we're really excited about that capacity that we have in terms of scalability that the AWS cloud services offer.
That's great. One of the reasons we have toll roads and express lanes is to provide a guaranteed level service to anybody who needs to get from one place to another safely. For David, ERC's journey to the cloud is quite fascinating. How quick it went, how you broke it into manageable pieces, and how your strategy centered on your customers. Tell us a bit more about ERC's successful journey and how it has served your customers.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, it's been an interesting and challenging and even rewarding experience to build a new system that is both beneficial to ERC and better enables us to better serve our customers. The Hampton Roads region is one of those areas that is threatened by coastal flooding, and especially tropical storms. So one of our goals was to improve the resiliency and survivability of our back office system. And AWS was a perfect fit for that. So we were able to lift our data centers. We had 2 data centers that we were able to completely move to the cloud in about 10 weeks. The project lasted. And that immediately gave us a big boost in the survivability and disaster recovery capabilities for our system. A new tolling system in the cloud allowed us to reimagine how we could service our customers. And we began with a new website, totally based at AWS. We rebuilt it from scratch using serverless architecture and the latest in cloud-based systems to create a website that was customer-focused. And the main purpose of the website is to help customers pay their tolls and manage their accounts. That was our first step. From there, we went to rebuilding our CRM system and our call center to enable them to be able to better serve customers. Nobody likes paying a toll, but tolls are necessary to fund the infrastructure. As we heard Emeka say, public and private partnerships bring alternate funding sources, and tolls are part of that equation. And while nobody likes paying a toll, the goal of companies like ERC is to make that process as easy, as efficient, and as customer oriented as possible. And I think that's been one of the major components that working with our technology partner Cognizant and AWS allowed us to build a system that achieves that goal and allows us to offer an even better level of customer service than we were offering before.
Thank you, Dave. I'm not sure everyone appreciates just how vital toll roads are in sustainable economies in our cities. Can you explain the impact on Hampton roads if the toll system is not available?
Yes, the Hampton Roads area serves a number of military and port facilities. And I think looking back to when COVID started and we all went in lockdown last March is a good example. ERC was able to quickly deploy our call center working from home. And we wouldn't have been able to do that with our old legacy platform. It would have taken a lot of effort, a lot of time. But being in the cloud made the transition to working from home very easy. The one way to look at the vital part of the traffic is many toll roads experienced a very rapid drop in traffic as people stayed and worked from home. But in our region, that drop was not nearly as large because in Hampton Roads, most of the jobs or many of the jobs require you to be on site. You can't repair a ship working from home. You can't unload a container ship working from home. So our employees had to return back to work. The facilities had to be available, and we were able to do that. And as the port picked up activities rapidly last summer, the tunnels were there and ready to serve them.
I'm glad that we were able to partner with ERC to create the resiliency that you need in order to continue your vital service. Chris, oh, you're welcome. Chris, that's a very ambitious roadmap that you presented for Transport for New South Wales. Can you tell us a little more about your future technology plans?
Yeah, thanks. So for us, this whole roadmap experience actually started back in 2016, where we partnered with industry, the startup community, the research community, and students, university students across New South Wales. And we asked them the question, if you were in charge of transport, what would you do to use technology to improve the customer experience? We got thousands of ideas back. And we basically, from that, created a strategy and a roadmap to execute upon. Now, that was back in 2016. One of the great things out of that document, and I encourage you all to go have a read of it, is it basically said, no one knows what the future is going to look like. And that's okay. Be comfortable in that. Instead, focus on what we called no regrets initiatives. Things that you should do no matter which way the future will go, because they will set you up for success and allow you to leverage to the maximum opportunity possible any disruption that comes. So let me talk through a couple of examples. We opened up all of our data. So we have all of our real-time movements of public transport vehicles across the state available through our open data platform. We even worked out how to use the real-time weight data on our trains to extrapolate a capacity rating or fullness of service by carriage for our customers, how full buses were in real time, trams and our ferry services as well. And we're able to make all of that available to improve our customer experiences, to improve the experience for our customers. So that when a customer's standing at a bus stop and there's 3 or 4 buses coming, they can actually look at the app on their phone and they can see which one of those is full, which one am I going to get onto? And that's just one example of what we delivered through the Future Transport Technology Roadmap. But contactless payments, where you can use your preferred debit or credit card to simply tap on and tap off on our public transport network is another. On demand from your home to public transport interchanges is another set of trials that we were doing. Smart shuttle services for connected autonomous vehicles, same too. We actually created an experience where through our journey planner you could look up a connected an autonomous shuttle. You could then book it, and you could then jump on it and ride that shuttle experience. So we've been really working over these last few years to make that happen. And what I presented before is saying, right, that's been great for the last 4 years, but what are we going to do for the next 4? And then when we think about partnerships and how we're going to bring it to life over the next few years, we really do value the partnerships that we have with the technology industry. Now, if I just talk through an example, perhaps with AWS about how we brought this to life. In 2020, everyone's experiencing COVID. It's been a horrible experience for all of us. But what we wanted to do here in New South Wales is to begin to introduce confidence for our customers to begin to use public transport services again. So we actually partnered. We've got an app called Opal Travel, and on that app you can look and you can do journey planning and see when next services are coming. You can see how much balance is on your Opal card. You can top up your Opal card. You can see your journey history and what have you. You can give us feedback about transport services. It's basically a one-stop shop. So what we did with that is we actually partnered with AWS to say, what if we could introduce an experience with our customers' permission where we look at the services that they typically take in their commute, ask them, confirm that, is that the commute that you normally take? And then because we know how full those services are in real time and historically, we're able to work with folks like Amazon Web Services to use the services in the cloud computing stack around machine learning to enable us to predict the likelihood of that service being COVID safe or not for that customer's normal commute. And if it is, we push them a message to say, this morning you're going to be COVID safe. And if it's not, we actually again use that machine learning algorithm to suggest, to firstly tell the customer, we don't think that service will be COVID safe today. We would suggest instead you take this service. And that whole experience, that whole customer experience, the minimum viable product was built in a matter of days and the executable into market within weeks. And that was only made possible through the partnerships that we've had in the technology industry and the collaboration that we had with good folks at AWS.
That's great. And using traditional development methodologies or having to invest in the infrastructure to deliver that, I imagine might have taken months or years.
If we had taken a traditional approach to doing that, it would have been many, many months of development, a traditional waterfall approach, define all the requirements and they'll go build it and then kind of put it into production many months later. We need to respond now. We need to respond immediately. And so we used an agile delivery methodology, which is kind of our delivery mode of choice. And the advantage that you have with cloud computing providers is not just the hosting capability, that's kind of interesting, but it's actually the services on top. That's what really brings it home and enables our teams to work very quickly in collaboration with software development houses and tech providers like yourselves to spin up what a customer experience can be, test it with our customers, refine, develop, and put it into production in weeks.
It would seem to me that the concerns or risk of what might happen 3 or 4 years from now is less of a concern because you can rely on AWS to provide the infrastructure to support whatever that's going to be. So I'd like to speak to the whole panel now and ask you to take out your crystal balls and please tell us in a minute or so what you see in the future. Emeka?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of start with Chris's comment about no regrets, a no regrets agenda. I do think that if you look at the trends around climate change coming from the Biden-Harris administration here in the US, you have to believe that there's going to be investments and trends that are going to be focused on mitigating the impacts of climate risk as it relates to our transportation infrastructure. And so I think one of the initiatives kind of embedded within that is around road user charging. And that's basically pivoting away from looking at the gas tax as the funding source for the rebuilding of our nation's infrastructure and looking at the real utilization of that infrastructure as being the source for calculating how we pay for it. And so it starts to layer on a lot of opportunity for companies, frankly, like ours and even like ERC that have this capability around tolling, where you're capturing payment for the utilization of a piece of infrastructure and applying that over the broad transportation network. And so I think that given the focus of this administration and really the global focus on climate change, we're going to be moving into the direction of some sort of road user charging scheme as a way for us to look to pay for our infrastructure needs.
It's sort of like public transit where you only pay for the services that you use, but you do pay for them.
Correct.
Okay. How about you, David? What do you see in the future?
Yeah, it's interesting because we have 50 years left on our contract. So when you think about running an asset with a 50-year time horizon, and then think back, just 12, 15 years ago, there were no iPhones. I mean, what's going to happen? First, clearly we'll be shifting to embedded technology built into vehicles. We won't be attaching, RFID chips and plastic cases to windshields. That'll happen it's already happening. We're already seeing auto manufacturers doing that. And then I think the whole idea of GPS fencing becomes a component of now it's just you're carrying a device that knows your location. You drive through the facility and you pay the user charge. So as the facilities migrate, there'll be a lot of ways to pretty much charge the user fee. And I think I agree with Emeka that we're going to shift to a pay for use. That it's really about the only way we're going to be able to save our infrastructure and put enough investment in to do all the work that's required. And so I think we'll see this it'll be a transportation economy that kind of rotates around how much you use and you pay for your use. Whether it becomes paying by the mile or paying by the length of the facility you drive on, it'll vary tremendously.
So I see a lot of alignment between Transurban and ERC, and can appreciate in both cases how the cloud is going to enable that new world. Chris, it's very hard to ask you a futures question in an agency that is so completely focused on the future. But what do you see in the horizon beyond 4 years? What is it going to look like in Sydney when I visit 4 or 5 years from now?
I think there's there's lots of interesting trends that have come out over this last year, with COVID and all of our experiences around that. There's a couple that are really interesting. The first one is that real rise pretty universally across cities across the world around active transport, whether that be walking or cycling, and using that type of traveling method to get partially way through your journey, where people may have just traditionally jumped in the car and tried to kind of get to where they want to get to. So that's a really interesting trend. And from a transport authority standpoint, how do we respond? How do we look at that infrastructure? How do we think about car parks? How do we think about the sidewalks, and to make it as user-friendly as possible for both cyclists and pedestrians to kind of travel and make that choice versus jumping into a car? The second, very interesting one is around the rise of connected autonomous vehicles. Now, we all know with technology, everyone kind of overestimates what's going to happen in the short term, but always underestimates what's going to happen in the long term. And you can absolutely see that connected autonomous vehicles will be kind of the next big network disruption to transportation systems. And I think it's incumbent upon all of transport authorities to really think and vision about how those vehicle types can begin to click into the network versus being a competitor. These vehicles are not cheap. They're not something that that you or I might buy. They will be very much focused around, and you're seeing it right now in the trials, particularly out of the US, around a rideshare style model. So when you think about that, how does that plug into the rest of the network, and what can we do with that? How does that improve safety outcomes? How does that improve customer convenience and experience? And then if you think about the payment methods, how can we connect it all up and use that to incentivize customers to make really good travel choices that enhance the management of our network versus working against it? So I think there's lots of points in history around transportation disruption, and I think the next 4, 5, 10 years will be one that we'll all look back on and go, yep, this was the biggie. This is the big one.
Well, your insights are great, and it's wonderful to know that Transurban, ERC, and Transport for New South Wales are at the tip of the spear of delivering these great innovations in the cloud. Thanks for joining us today. Here are links to our panelist websites, as well as additional AWS resources where you can learn more. You joined this session to learn, and you can keep the learning going afterwards with resources from AWS training and certification. Learn more at aws.com/training. I want to thank Emeka, Chris, and David for your insights and express our appreciation to Transurban, Transport for New South Wales, and Elizabeth River Crossings for your partnership building the future of your enterprises on AWS. Your feedback on this session is really important to us, so please take a moment to complete the session survey.